So excited to have you guys here. Hello, hello. I'm Laura Holloway with the Storyteller Agency and working with WCTE with the Student Film Festival. And um, we're here with the wonderful, fabulous, talented Sara Cravens, who is a wildly successful voiceover artist who hails from Cookeville. And Sara, we are so excited that you have taken some time to be with us here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Laura and I were good friends in high school. And yes, I am from Cookeville and love Cookeville and would do anything for Cookeville. So I'm so happy to be here.
Yay.
So yeah, let me just talk to you guys about voiceover and what it's like to be a voice actor and then I'll let you guys ask your questions so I can be as helpful to you as specifically as you'd like it to be. So I have been a voice actress in Los Angeles for about 15 years now, which is insane. I am Frost in Mortal Kombat and Power Girl in Injustice 2 and Fallout 76 that just came out. I play Carol Putnam in that. And you better believe that when I was in the session for Fallout that I was like, did you research me and see that I was from Putnam County? And they were like, we already had the character's name before we hired you for this, but we love that you're from this town. I Death Stranding, I play Conan O'Brien's wife, and The Outer Worlds, I play Amelia. Animation and commercials and promo and blah 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 blah. We can get into all that if you guys want to ask specific questions about it. But let's see. For those of you who have no idea what this is, voiceover is basically any medium that you hear a voice on. Like I said, I named some like video games, animation, television commercials, radio commercials, promos that introduce networks and their show lineup, audiobooks, all of that stuff. Anime, anime's great. Love. I in One Punch Man, I play Child Emperor in that, and some other cool shows there. So yeah, voiceover people, we literally stay in booths all day and talk to ourselves. Um, Laura and I were just laughing before this about like the pandemic, and it ravaged our entire world really. And the weirdest thing was that voiceover specifically, I think, is the only area of entertainment that just didn't stop, because we already, if we were ones that worked, that had studios in our homes anyway, we were used to sitting in closets all day and talking to ourselves, so it just kept rolling. So uh like a typical day for a voice actor is you get up. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to look fancy or nice. You can stay in your pajamas all day long, which I definitely did most of 2020. Um,
Who didn't?
yeah, right. You were doing it wrong if you didn't stay in your pajamas most of the time. Um, it's all about it's just all about your performance and connection to whatever that you're doing, so it doesn't there's not all the extra effects of like what you look like or what you're perceived to be or whatever. It's just people hearing your voice and connecting to it. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I would get up and drink some coffee and be in my pajamas most of the day, and then uh, depending on what my recording schedule was for that day, I either linked up with a studio, and I would record, be it if I had a commercial session or an animation session. Animation sessions were so fun and crazy during the pandemic because we would have, we're connected up with the studio over a connection service called Source Connect. So all of our sound was going right to the engineer so they could mix it in real time. And then we would have another screen open that was a Zoom screen with all the other actors and all the producers and director. And it was crazy because we got to find some community in that. Even though we weren't all able to be together, we could see each other on our little screens while we were recording together. I think when it comes to voiceover, the biggest advice that I could give anyone is to just be you. And I know that seems so simplistic, and you want to, you want someone to have like this, golden nugget of like, do this and this and this and this, and you'll be successful. I have found that like being myself and unapologetically being myself and showing up as just me in all of the projects is what gave me my career. I was very much, able to parlay being like, oh, that's the southern kid, in a lot of my first projects. And then you get hired for being the southern kid because, like, y'all know, if you're from Cookeville, Tennessee, like, nobody can fake a southern accent better than you were just given it by God. Um, so I feel like my career started with like me doing a lot of like Southern stuff and Southern characters. And then you get in the sessions and then they're like, well, we have this other character, try this. And then you expand out of that. But like, I don't know that I would have done anything if I was like chasing and trying to be someone else and trying to be this, what I thought the casting director wanted or the producer wanted. If I didn't just show up and be like, this is me and I think I should be in your project, whatever. So be yourself. And that goes for, all of this stuff. I'm talking specifically about voiceover because that's what I know, because that's what I've spent my entire adult life doing. But this applies to every area of entertainment. So filmmakers, don't make a copy of what someone else did. Like, do your thing. Your voice matters, absolutely, and we need it. And that's what stands out when somebody brings a performance as a voice actor, or has a film that speaks to them and is unique to them. That's what resonates with us, and that's what makes us love it. And at the core, I love that Laura's company is Storyteller Agency, because that's what I tell when I help people with auditions for voiceover. Number one, I'm like, you are telling a story. That's it. It doesn't matter if it's a commercial. It doesn't matter if it's animation. It doesn't matter if it's a video game. Whatever it is, our job is to tell a story. And even if it's like a commercial and we're like, the brand is selling a product, we're not selling a product. Like, we are communicating a story underneath the words. And that's where, when you get that connection, or when you hear a really great performance, that's what it is. That's what you connect to, that you're like, I resonated with that story that they told me. And even though I don't even know like really what emotionally they're connected to, I felt it. And that's why I cared. And that's why it meant something to me. So at the core of everything, voiceover, advertising, filmmaking, you're a storyteller. Know what story you're telling and unapologetically go after it in your own unique way. Um, uh, Another thing that I want to say, just because I get it, I was from your town. I understand that when you're from a small town and you're just like, oh, all these other people that like grew up elsewhere and they have these connections and they have these families that worked in movies or whatever, and so they just like were born into this, like, knowing people. That doesn't of course they have more connections, but what you have that matters so much is a life that you lived that they could never speak to, they could never tell in the way that you could. And so don't ever feel like you're behind. Like, live your life, because if you don't live your life, like, you don't have anything to say. Like, you can't speak to an experience if you haven't had any. Um, and I know when I first moved to LA, I felt like I was so behind because I was like, oh, I grew up in a small town in Tennessee, and I didn't even know this was a job that I could have. And I graduated from the University of Tennessee. Go Vols. And I love it, and I loved my time there. And then I got to LA, and I was like, I'm so behind. I'm behind everybody. Uh, but I wasn't, because I lived such a specific life that people didn't know out here. And once I understood that, that's what's interesting, and um that's what makes you stand apart in a room. It's not and I didn't go to a fancy acting school. Like, I have people all the time that I meet that like graduated from these amazing acting programs, and they're asking me how to be an actor. And I'm like, man, I went to football games in college. I didn't do this. So believe and know that your experience matters, and the life that you lived mattered, and the experiences that you had and what you learned and the stories that you can tell based on that all really, really matter. Um, and you don't have to have it all figured out right now at all. You don't. You can try a bunch of different things and find what speaks to you. When I first moved out here, I was just kind of like casting um my net wide because I didn't know what was even available to be a job. So I started out doing comedy. I did a lot of improv and a lot of sketch, and I was doing a lot of on camera at the beginning when I moved out here. And then I booked this voiceover job, and I went in and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the coolest job ever. I worked for 15 minutes and I made the same amount of money as the other commercial that I did. And I was there for 17 hours. This is crazy. Um, so you don't need to have it all figured out. Know what you like, and uh, chase what makes you feel good, what makes you feel fulfilled doing. Uh, Another thing, make bad stuff. Everything you make does not have to be a masterpiece, and don't beat yourself up over it. Like, you can make terrible things, terrible things, terrible things, and then have a really, really great thing because you worked out all the kinks on the other ones. And obviously, like, we've all been to movies that are terrible. We've all seen television shows that are terrible. Like, people that are working in this, we get paid a lot of money to make bad stuff all the time. So don't let that stop you just because you made something that was like not great. Keep going, keep telling your stories. And don't get down on yourself, because pro tip, make bad stuff. Yes, I love it. Do it, because it doesn't matter. And when you think like, oh, that's a terrible thing and that's what I'm going to be known for. No, make something great, and then that's what you're going to be known for, right? Yeah. Don't beat yourself up or think that you can't do it just because you made one terrible thing, because we have all, or we will all make terrible. I can't wait for my next terrible project. Whatever.
This might be it.
Right? Doesn't matter anymore. And two more things, and then I want to take you guys' questions. One being, don't be a jerk. That is like, that could be a lifetime of classes in one phrase. My very first video game, I I was in Halo. That was my first game, and I was like horrified to go in. I go into Warner Brothers and I'm like, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm gonna be terrible. They're gonna know that I wasn't meant to be here. They're gonna know I'm terrible. They're gonna find me out. And so I show up, and I am terrified, you guys. But I suck it up, and I don't show it, and I do my job, and I listen to the director, and I get through the first session. And after the first session, the director meets me outside before I left, and she was like, hey, great job in there. I just want you to know that you will never not work again. And I was like, what, flabbergasted. And I was like, I'm sorry, can I ask a dumb question? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, why? What did I do? and I kid you not, she said, you showed up on time, you did your job, and you weren't a jerk to work with. And I was like, that's the bar? That's it? That's what you do? And she was like, you would be surprised. So, show up, do your job, take direction, and don't be a jerk to people. Nobody wants to work with a jerk. And I know that like it's really like it's glamorous to like tell stories about actors that are jerks or whatever, and then you're like, well, they work all the time, whatever. Um, uh, it, yeah, a few people get away with it. But the people that are working every single day, they are not jerks, and they are wonderful to work with, because if you're going to be locked in a small booth with a windowless room with someone for 8 hours, you don't want them to be a jerk. And along with that, my uh second piece of advice, well, I don't know, maybe I've given 15 at this point, but my last one that I will say is uh the most successful people that I know are also the most supportive people I know. So do not undercutting other people or wishing someone else's, like, that they don't book something or their career doesn't go well or whatever. It never helps you. If someone else books a job that you don't, it wasn't your job. They didn't take it away from you. And being supportive of other people's career makes you a happier person. And like I said, the people that are struggling and work a little bit, they are way nastier than my good friends that work every day and are in every major video game and animated show that you guys watch. And because there comes with you have hopefully more grace when you work all the time, to be like, oh, I don't have to be mean to people, I don't have to undercut other people, because I get it. Yes, don't be a jerk to anyone. Just thought of it again. There is a difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence, everyone needs it, and own it. I feel like maybe the difference between the two is arrogant people need to prove to everyone that they should be in the room. Confident people, they quietly know that they deserve to be there. And being confident will always serve you. You can hear it in auditions when people are confident with their read and they're like, I owned that. I'm grounded. I know what I'm doing, and I'm proud of that. And maybe I book it and maybe I don't, but I'm really proud of what I sent in. And I don't need someone's opinion to make me feel good about what I did, because I'm confident in my work and my performance and great. And arrogance is just another way to be a jerk, so don't do it. Okay, so I will want to take some questions so I can, give you guys some advice on specifically things that you want to know. I will also say that, like, through the pandemic, there is a studio in LA called Ace Studios that I teach at. I teach voiceover at, and with the pandemic, we had to shut down all of the in-person classes, and we went to an all virtual platform. And what has been cool about that is that now our classes, you can live anywhere in the country, you live anywhere in the world if you log in at the right time. So AceStudiosLA.com is the website. I like I said, I teach voiceover classes there, and a lot of my colleagues that are directors in animation and video games and agents out here all come and teach workshops. So if there's more that you want to learn about voiceover, that is a wonderful place that you can actually take advantage of now. When people would ask me literally a year ago, like, well, I don't live in LA, like, what can I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I can help you out, but as far as like classes and training, I don't really know anywhere I could send you. But now you can take classes from anywhere, and we have a lot of actors that moved out of LA and are in way cheaper places to live, that still get to work and take advantage of classes. So yeah, no, you do not have to be in LA. You can log on to Ace Studios LA and take any class you want, whatever. They are in Pacific time, so just make sure you remember that when you're switching over what time the class is. But yeah.
Sara, I love what you said. Before we go to some questions, I wanted to go back. You said something a minute ago that I thought was so, first of all, just inspirational, and just something that I think a lot of people need to hear. And it's that your experience is what makes you who you are, and nobody else shares that experience. Sara, you and I moved out to LA together, and we made the drive across the country. We had my dog Biggie with us.
That my dad gave us.
We broke down in the desert. We ran out of gas in the middle of the Mojave Desert, and we sat on the side of the road for a couple of hours with my dog, and the only weapon or anything that we had was this pocket knife. And we sat there with that knife thinking someone's going to pull over and harass us. Mm-hmm. Everything in your life brings you to the place that you are now. Yes. I would love to hear about the very first voiceover audition that you went to. How did you, because you have such a distinct voice, and you and I have grown up together. We played basketball together back in the day. We did plays together. I think you are so talented and just such an incredible person. Something that you have always done that I think is so important, and you even touched on this, is that you have always been so unapologetically you. And that's what draws people to you. And your voice itself is, I think the first time I ever saw when you started getting some professional work, and you did a CVS commercial where you were like running through the CVS, like sloshing stuff into this basket. And I watched it and I thought, you know what, this could be anybody in the world, but it could not be anybody but you. And I love that. Tell me a little bit about how you made that transition from, yeah, just like Bobby said, how did you discover voiceover acting, and what was that very first audition like?
So thank you for all of that. That was lovely. And yes, I will never forget us driving through the Mojave Desert with the pocket knife my dad gave us, like as we took off.
Good old Roy. Love you, Roy.
Who, if he figured out YouTube, he's probably out there somewhere.
Hey, Roy. Love you.
Hi, Dad. So to hit first, like the how did I discover voice acting? I didn't. Like I said, I did not know that it was even a job that people had. 15 years ago, it's very like present in the world now, like because celebrities started doing like animated movies. But 15 years ago, it was you didn't really know the actors that were doing cartoons and you didn't know voice actors' names. They weren't household names like they are now. So I didn't know what it was, but I was in an improv show, and
with the Groundlings, right?
Yes.
Sara has some amazing training with, just so that you know this too, she has some amazing training with the Groundlings, which is where so much of the cast from Saturday Night Live comes from.
But let me also say, they cut me. I wasn't good enough for them. So
I wasn't going to say that part. I wasn't going to say that part, but that's such a part of your story.
I actually love it more. Like, I love it. So I guarantee you the people that have been cut from that place
have gone on and done
have way better careers than the people that are still there.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I appreciate that, but I also I always found it hard when I was starting. Like, you only hear like success stories about people. So anytime you had something that wasn't like good, or you felt like you failed in it, then it was like, well, that's another reason I shouldn't be doing this. So that's why I'm like, I more so want to like tell people about all of the times that I failed. And oh, y'all, I did not handle it well. I did not handle it when I got cut. It destroyed me, because I was like, well, then this means I'm really not good and I can't do anything. And, and then eventually you pull yourself out of that dark place, and you're like, what did I move out here to do? And am I going to let these idiots on Melrose Avenue, yes, idiots on Melrose Avenue, tell me that I can have a career or not? No, you don't get to have that power over me. So
love that.
from your stupid program. And now I don't have to waste my weekends doing shows at your theater for free. I can go out and make a living doing this. So the fails matter too.
Yes. Even sometimes more so than the successes. They push you. And I know that when you and I first moved out to LA, you had a very specific vision kind of what you wanted. And
it completely changed.
which is life, and all of these failures caused you and created your path to become where you are. And y'all, Sara is, I mean, you can look at her resume, but she is so successful. Like, I'm so proud to say that I knew you when, and that I know you now. And it is just like you said, it's the failures are just as equal as the successes. And so I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Absolutely. And I agree with you even more so that, that gave me a moment that I was like, man, I really thought I wanted to do this, but also, like, thinking back on it, I didn't love doing sketch comedy. Like, I know people that I was in the Groundlings with that loved it. I never did. Um, but that was just like what I had been doing for so long. So it was just like I just kept going on that path. And so what getting cut did for me was that path kind of stopped for me. And so I got to open up, like, so much of my time was opened up to, like, parts of the business that were saying yes to me. Like, I had already started working as a voice actor at that point, but because this other thing was so important to me, I didn't really it didn't really resonate that, like, what are you doing, Sara? Like, you're working as a voice actor, but you're like this comedy theater, you're letting be more important to you than something that's actually your career.
And that values you for who you are.
Yes, exactly. And so it was great. So anyway, I started out doing comedy, and there was an agent at a little dinky improv show that I did at, like, middle of the night, because that's how you do improv shows in LA. And anyway, the agent, like, approached me and was just like, have you ever thought about doing voiceover? Like, improvisers tend to be really good at it. And I was like, man, I don't even know what voiceover is. I just moved here. Like, I don't know. But yeah, great. And so that's how I, like, started doing voiceover. And then, so I signed with that agency, and the way it works, now you record all your auditions from home. Like, your agent just emails you all your auditions, and you record it from home and send it back to him. But at the time, you would go in for them. And so, I started going into that agency to read for whatever they had for me, whatever was, like, a spec that was uh that I was right for. And you just go in, and I love, it makes me laugh, Laura, that you were like, I was always like just me, and like the CVS person was just me. And, like, y'all, I don't know it, like, I know for sure that I wasn't, like, smart enough to figure it out back then. I think I was, like, just too dumb to know better at the time, that I was just like, whatever, I don't know anything else to do, but like I would. So I started I would just read like whatever copy they would give me, and I would just read it the way that I would do it. And it was an entire year that I was like auditioning before I booked my first commercial. And it was a Diet Dr. Pepper commercial, and I was
Let's hear it. Let's hear that Diet Dr. Pepper commercial.
I think I said, "I'm just nuts about you, Diet Dr. Pepper." Like that's it. That's it. But
Nailed it.
yeah, it was great. See, they chose right. But but that was it. It was like I just read everything that came to me as me, and then and so I booked that one, and then it was another year before I booked my second spot. So all these people that are just like, oh, oh, once you start working, it's like whatever. Someone who books their first job, like I was not that person at all, but I loved it. I loved being in the booth. I loved getting something, and no matter whether the script was good or bad or didn't make sense or whatever, like that was like a playground for me. I got to do something with it. And so then maybe after about 3 years, it was like a little bit more regular that I was like booking stuff, but still not enough to like make my living doing it. But I think back, and I don't know that that I anything like really switched or whatever, like because I've always just done stuff as me, and I think it just takes a while to get in it, and sometimes like it gets a while for people to be used to you being in the mix and seeing your name on call sheets and seeing you on the short list, and then after a while it was just like, instead of I still felt like a newbie, but then it was just like, oh yeah, we know Sarah, she does stuff all the time, whatever. And it just it takes a while for for you to get in the mix of people that are just working all the time. And so I think like overall for acting or entertainment in general, it's so like if you love it, then do it. Because I had so much fun auditioning that it didn't matter. Like it was awesome when I'd book something, but losing jobs never made me feel like I didn't want to keep doing it. It just was like, okay, well,
it just wasn't the right one for you.
It just wasn't, and then after a while you get, people know that are in the position of hiring, they get to know you, and then that's it. You're like in the mix then, and it was so lovely. Let me see. Oh good, yes, there aren't any classes around, so yes, come take a class. We have people all over the country now taking classes, and it's awesome. So what types of software or hardware would you recommend for people? Okay, this is we could do hours and hours and hours on tech, but you need a microphone, and you need a quiet space. When I first like started out, you can tell that like the sun's going down in LA because like the light's changing, but anyway, you need a quiet space. Like obviously this is my full-time job, so I have a studio in my home, but like a closet. Oh my goodness, this is the best. If my mom's watching, I've done there's an area of voice acting called voice matching, which is basically in its simplest form, when let's say they're doing a trailer for a movie and they're missing like a line, and then they're like, well, it's really expensive to bring this celebrity in to just say this one line, but we could pay Sarah to come in and do it. Or, whoever the voice match is. So I've done Emma Stone's voice matching a lot. And there was the Croods, the first Croods movie. I was back in Cookeville. And I had sent in a file for it before I came back, and then I and didn't know that I booked it. I just like sent in like, this is me reading the line, whatever. And then I went back to Cookeville. I'm at LTAP.
Yes,
yeah,
of course you are. Yes.
I'm at LTAP with my family. And my agent calls and was like, hey, you booked the Croods thing, like Emma Stone's part. We need you to like get to a studio and record it because they're mixing it. And I was like, oh,
Where's that gonna happen?
so I am not in LA. So I was like, do you want to tell them that and find a studio here? Or do you want, and he was like, here's what we're going to do. Go home, get in the quietest space and record yourself. And we'll just send it in. And if they say nothing, then we say nothing. So we leave LTAP, we go home. I get in my mom's closet with all her like 80s clothes. It's fantastic. Just have her clothes all around me and my phone, literally holding my phone in front of me. And I do all the lines, super quiet and whatever. All my mom's 80s clothes just hanging all over me.
Yes.
I do the line, shoot the file over to my agent, and boom, they say nothing. So the Croods trailer has my voice as Emma Stone from my mom's closet in Cookeville.
Yes. Oh,
So
this is funny. Becky just said, I'll put this comment up here for you, that WCTE has a sound booth. If you're ever home and need a space, come on over.
yeah. And Becky, how's your son Max? I used to do plays with him. Yes?
He is so tall. Sarah, you wouldn't recognize him if you haven't seen him in years. I saw a picture the other day from his wedding, and he's so tall. He's a grown man.
Well, I loved him. We did plays together, and I'm such a fan. And thank you. I will take you up on that for sure when I'm back in Tennessee, because now I just like want to be back in Tennessee and like fish. Like I love going fishing, and so I just want to go back and like fish, and then go and record if I need to. What's it like to be from the rural South living in LA? It's great, you guys. I love Los Angeles. I love Cookeville. I love Tennessee. They both are really wonderful places for me for different times of my life. And again, going back to like, just like being you and like trusting that your experience matters and like your story matters. I kid you not, like, you see all these people, and I did anyway, like when I was in college, and you'd see people's like bios of whatever, and it was like, I was the lead in this play, and I was the lead in this play, and I was the lead in this play, and whatever. And like that wasn't me either, you guys. I was never like the best at anything. Like,
that's not true. That's not true.
In college, I did not book huge roles in college at all. And so I would see that stuff. And so then I get to LA and I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to put. Like, I'm not going to have a fancy bio. And I kid you not, everyone. It was cooler to people. Like, bios were so boring to anyone casting anything, anyone producing anything. They were like, oh, that's so boring. Whatever. You were this and this thing. The coolest thing to everyone in Los Angeles, California, was the fact that I used to work at Dollywood. And so at the beginning of my career, I was very much known as, oh, you're Dollywood. Dollywood's going to be in this with us. So awesome. Like, again, your whole, just who you are, your story matters.
But before we go to the next question, I think we have just found a bye-bye beer can promo that we're going to show. Does that ring a bell, Bobby? That's
a commercial that I don't know, years ago, but sure, go for it.
We can plug in.
Yeah.
Maybe. Here it comes. A breakup letter.
Oh, we should be hearing something.
Is there sound? Where's the voiceover?
Sure. There's for sure sound on it.
I'm picturing it. Oh, here we go. While we're figuring that out, there was a question that somebody had a second ago. If your voice is your instrument, how do you protect and care for it? Just like how Tina Turner Remember how Tina Turner insured her legs for like $1 million? How do you, like, if you're at a concert or something, do you feel the need to not scream out or?
Stop screaming at concerts. Also, those of you who grew up with me and have ever been to a concert with me in my younger days, I screamed out the entire every word to every song, and I was quite often hoarse. No. Stop doing that. That is terrible, terrible, terrible for your vocal cords. So stop screaming. When you're in the car and your windows are down and you're singing along with the radio, do not sing so loudly over the wind because that damages your vocal cords. Yes, stop.
Can we give this one more shot?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Dear Beer Can, our relationship has always been based on complete honesty, right? So I need to tell you, I've fallen out of love. We want such different things, have entirely different priorities. I can't live a lie anymore, and can't bear wondering whether you're full or empty. Wounded soldiers are just so wasteful, you know? And when you're dented or your top has some unidentifiable goo, it's a major turnoff. Full disclosure, Can, I've started hanging out with beer bottles. We have a connection I can't pretend doesn't exist. They're sophisticated and beautiful and have a certain gravitas that's super attractive and fits with where I'm heading. But keep your head up, Beer Can. I'm sure you'll find someone who still likes to shotgun you. I did for a really long time, but it's not happening anymore.
Yes, Bobby, I think that this is so appropriate that this is the one that you found.
I think it's so funny too.
Sarah, what? Just really quickly, so we can look for this and maybe put this one up too. What's the name of the CVS commercial? How can we search for that and stick it up here too? Because I would love for people to see you in live action too.
Man,
it was like called like it. I don't remember what it was called.
Superfan Jesse. Look up CVS Superfan Jesse.
All right. In the meantime, let's take one more question. Molly Grace said, I'll just put this up here so you can see it. Is there a big difference between voice teachers for singing and voice teachers for acting?
Yes, absolutely. It's two different it's two different mediums for your voice. Now, they will both be helpful for the other, but the specificity of the two of them when you're training your voice for singing, you will absolutely, like, all of that will matter and will definitely help when you're voice acting, like knowing how to control your breath and support. All of that matters. But where voice teachers like will speak to like singing opportunities, voice teachers for acting are specifically talking about like this is how you use your voice in commercials. This is how you use your voice for animation. Like there's a different style for each form of voice acting. Like video games are gritty. Video games are like they're raw. They're way more cinematic. Animation is way more like high energy up because you're popping around, keeping everybody's attention and like, with the cool animation. Commercials are paced up too, because it's like, oh, this is great. Anything you're talking about is great, right? So everything is each area of voice act each area of voice acting also has its own specifics, but yeah, they, like I said, they'll help each other, but yeah, you would want to know what you're doing specifically for voice acting. And the person that asked before about like technical setup, yeah, like I said, the space is the most important. And then the next thing that I would do, obviously, like, if you have all the money in the world, like, yeah, buy an awesome microphone and hook it up with a really awesome audio interface box, whatever. I think like getting by, if you have a space where the sound's deadened, you don't want any like hard surfaces like for the sound to bounce off of. That's why you see all these like traps and foam and whatever, just so the sound can't bounce around. So what you're getting is just like me,
Bobby, do we have a commercial reel we could share of Sarah's?
Oh man,
yes, this is the one.
said beauty is only skin deep has never heard of concealer. Hey-o! No, but seriously, you should try this. It'll work wonders. Oh, I love the shade. You get $5 extra rewards for every $50 you spend on beauty items. So why not stock up? Skincare, cosmetics, hair care.
Hey, Chief. Eyes on your own paper, okay? Hello?
Gene, that's a mannequin.
There's more to see. This year's optical.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Did you just call your marriage to my sister a charade? Charade's the word you choose.
You on Sports Street?
Ooh, those are
Yes.
old.
Awesome. It's still
Love
out
it.
there on the interwebs. It never dies.
So funny. I know. Yeah, that's the internet, people. Everything lives.
Many come to make the challenge, but not all can become masters. A master must be faster than anyone. Can't be shaken in any situation. And must be prepared to deal with anything. Here comes the new master of SSD. The most advanced SSD for faster computing. Samsung SSD 860 Pro and
Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Do you ever see, like, when you see the final product, or do you know what the character looks like when you go into the studio, or is that something? Because like a lot of the ones I've seen, those are some busty ladies hanging out.
Yes.
Do you see the character before you do the voice, or is that something that you see later?
Not always. It varies. It depends on how far along the project is when they bring us in. But a lot of times we'll see, if it's not the full character, we'll see like a sketch just so we can get an idea. Because that helps us create what we, our idea of what they sound like. And then we work with the director to be like, this is what we want this person to sound like. But yeah, Power Girl I didn't see until afterwards. Frost in Mortal Kombat, NetherRealm is the studio that did both Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat. So I had already worked with them in Injustice 2, and so I knew the team, who are awesome, by the way. I knew the team before Mortal Kombat, and when I came in from that, they had a lot of not the final animation, but they had a lot of the like cut scenes with the animatics that they could show me. And animatics are just uh, a rough of what the scene looks like without the final versions and coloring and all of that stuff. So that was cool because um, she was so this was the first time, like, Frost was a new character. She had never been voiced before, so that was like uh that was exciting because they wanted to show me what she looked like, because we were basically introducing uh a new person into the Mortal Kombat universe. Granted, like, she had existed before, she had never been voiced before. So that was really exciting. Let's see, with a low budget, how can I find a voiceover artist to voice my short? Great question. Ask somebody. There's somebody that you know that is like um a friend of yours you think that has an awesome voice. Ask them. If there's somebody that you guys, the internet's amazing. If there's somebody that you love, that you are like, reach out to them on their website and be like, I love your work and I'm doing this thing and I don't have a large budget. You would be amazed. Like, I am so fortunate to do this. Oh, Shane. Hi. I love that that's not a question. It's just, hey. So, you know, I'm so fortunate to do this for a living, and I love my job so much. And the other actors that I know that we do this for a living, we also do a lot of stuff, as long as you're like respectful, and sometimes we can't, but if you're respectful and are like, I have this thing and it's a really low budget and here's where it's going, and whatever, like, would you do it for this much? Like, there's no harm in asking. They may not be able to, but they could.
I think sometimes voiceover, sometimes you just hear, like, my company was doing a project in Florida and we were trying to find a voice for this nonprofit project. And I was going through Starbucks on my way to the meeting, and the guy's voice that was taking my order, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I pulled up to the window, I was like, have you ever recorded voiceover? And of course he hadn't. And he was like, oh my gosh, so excited about it. So I think it's just, if you can listen for it, sometimes it's there.
Absolutely. And yeah, and don't the don't ever not ask for something. Like, again, do not like, don't go about, as long as you're going about it in a respectful manner, like, and not reaching out to someone like, you owe me this or whatever, or I think that, for me, I get it, because I was like, I was a young actor for a really long time that didn't make my living doing this, and didn't, I worked at Starbucks when I first moved out here. I was a nanny for a long time. Like, it took me a while to have the career that I have now. And so I understand that there's a time in your life and a part of your career when you just don't have the money and the budget that you wish you did. But if it's something that I care about and I don't feel like people are taking advantage of me. There's it's a great example. There's a short film that recently reached out to me, and they were like, we have this character, we really want you for it. We are going through the union, and we'd love to have you do this. It's ultra low budget, but we're gonna go through the union so that you can have like your health and pension with it too. But the budget's ultra low budget. And I was like, absolutely. They sent me the script and they were like, and this is who we want you to be and whatever. And I was like, this is rad. Of course I will do this, because you never know what people are going to do unless you ask them. But I absolutely think, if there's somebody that you want for something, give it a go.
Awesome. How do you keep your instrument in check? Do you still take classes? I know you teach a lot of classes. Do you still train? Do you still do tutorials? Do you have mentors that you work with?
Yeah, so I don't I don't take as many classes anymore. I took a ton at the beginning, just to stay in it. All kinds of gaining information from new teachers is always helpful. But at the beginning, when I wasn't working as much, it was just so I was like practicing all the time. Now that I again am very fortunate to do this for a living, I am like practicing in sessions all the time. So I kind of, when I'm not working, I like to be a human being who has dinner and go and hangs out with my cats. So I don't take as many classes, but I am always I'm always taking in media. Like, I'll watch shows that I'm not in, and just to feel what that tone is and see like choices that actor took that I think is interesting or whatever. So consuming the media space is always like a great learning experience too. I love this. How do you gauge success in voiceover? If you are that's such a, I love that is a question, and I want to think very specifically about how I want to answer it. I success is a really hard thing, and it leads to a lot of depression. So that's why I want to take some care with this, because I think if you are fulfilled by what you do, you're successful, and you need to know that, because I when you're starting out and you're just working, it's like you're trying to hit this goal, and like you don't even know what that is. You don't even know. It's like you're hitting this, you're trying to be successful. And I think that, like, once you book a project that you make a great living doing, it's not that your life doesn't change. Like, yeah, maybe you're not like struggling to like, oh, I'm gonna eat a Rice Krispie treat for dinner anymore, because you're just broke and you're trying to make ends meet. But your life doesn't change in the way that I think people think it is when they're like chasing success. Like, once you do it, you're just like, oh, this is my job. And that's kind of what it is. So don't get, I want to say, don't get wrapped up in trying to like find success. Like, be fulfilled in what you do, and you will be such a happier person. Because if you're like chasing the next rung every time, then you're always going to feel like you're not there, you're not doing it, when in fact you are doing it, and you've been doing it every day. And like, now I look back and I'm like, the entire 15 years I was out here, like, all of that mattered to where I am now. It's not that like the first years didn't make me who I am, and didn't have anything to do with this. Like, if I hadn't had those, I probably wouldn't have the career that I have right now. So yeah, don't chase success. Find fulfillment in what you do. And if you're just chasing it and it all feels like you need it to be something, like you need to make X amount of dollars, you need to be in this project or whatever, then that is not the right reason to be in this. You will never be happy in it. Like, I love doing a random commercial for whatever. I don't need it to be this like huge, a project like Mortal Kombat, like a Disney thing, to be fulfilling to me. Whatever I create in here is fulfilling to me, and that's where I want people to think about success, because I think that it's really hard for performers to feel like they've done it or they've made it. Always trying to get to the next thing.
I love that. I love what you said. It is. If you, no matter where you are in your life or what you're doing in your career, anything, it's, if you feel at the end of the day that you've done something fulfilling, then you've found success. I love that. Well, guys, we are going to wrap up here. This has been Voiceover with Sara Cravens. If you want to find out more about Sara, saracravens.com. Or if you'd like to take one of her online voice classes, it's ACE Studios LA. More information will be available on WCT.org if you want to find out more. And I would love if we could end the show with the Croods trailer that you were talking about earlier. We've got that teed up here and ready to go. Sara, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate your time so much, and best of luck with continuing to kill it in LA. We love you, and we're so proud to have you as someone that we can say is from where we're from.
Yeah, go Cookeville.
Yeah. All right, let's do that trailer.
By my dad's one rule: never leave the cave. We never had the chance to explore the outside world, but what we didn't know was that our world was about to change.
Come down! Into the cave! Go! Look out!
You really need to see this.
The Croods.